Thomason in Washington. Supporters and detractors, both sides turning out for President Trump's visit to two cities, grieving the loss of life in last weekend's mass shootings. The president and the First Lady yesterday visited El Paso and Dayton. Immigration raids targeting 7 chicken processing plants in Mississippi, resulting in the arrests of almost 700 people. Workers at those plants, they could not prove they're in the U.S. legally. Police holding a 33-year-old man in the fatal stabbing of 4 people in Garden Grove in Santa Ana, California, south of L.A. The local police chief says the suspect staged a 2-hour robbery and stabbing rampage. On Wall Street this morning, stock futures pointing to a higher open. Right now, Dow futures up 13 points. S&P futures better by 5. NASDAQ futures up 24.
All right, John Fredericks Show. Good to have you back. America's Sheriff with us, Sheriff David Clarke. Former Sheriff of Milwaukee. He's also a senior advisor to WeBuildTheWall.us, and he's with us live. Sheriff, great to have you.
Thanks, John. Good morning to you. Good morning to your listeners.
And the Sheriff has a little spring in his step today. The Cubs, winners of 7 of the last 10 games, won again yesterday. The Cubs taking care of Milwaukee. They got a 3-game lead over the Brewers, 3.5 over the Cardinals. They did that in a week, and Reds have dropped to 7 back. So the Cubs now, all of a sudden, right, winning games at home, you're winning a few games, and now you're going on the road. What do you think? You feel better?
Yeah, it's amazing to be big, and you think you wouldn't have to say that if they're going to play the Cincinnati Reds, but they got a 4-game series in Cincinnati. They struggle with teams that they shouldn't, but they need some separation. I know it's a 3-game lead, 3.5 over St. Louis, but separation here. Time to go.
Well, here's the thing. Reds last gasp, right? I mean, here it is. It's August 8th. You're 7 games out. You got 4 games at home. You got to win 3 of those 4 games to really get back in the race if you're a Reds fan. I mean, if you lose 3 out of 4 or you get swept, your season's over. You might as well have a fire sale and go home. So the Reds are going to pack them in, obviously, and a split does them no good either. So, but it should be an interesting series. But Cubs not playing well on the road this year at all. I mean, they go home, they're like a different team. They go on the road. So we'll see. I think this is a big series for them, and we'll see how it goes, Sheriff Clarke. Okay, I want to get your thoughts as a law enforcement professional. The congressman that's running for president from San Antonio, Joaquin Castro, puts out a Twitter feed with the donors' names and addresses of max donors for Trump in his district. He's such a moron that 2 of the donors for Trump are also his donors. What an idiot. These are his constituents. Now, what do you think the purpose of him posting that was, Sheriff?
Oh, grandstanding. These are some of the tactics that are being employed by the left in this political warfare. And by the way, I will say this once again, that the left has declared war on American conservatives, the Constitution, the United States of America, and these are the guerrilla-type war tactics that they're employing. So I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised at all. But, we have to have a better response than we're getting. We can't just sit back and say, oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is a shame. There's got to be some privacy laws there that were played. There should be some civil action. I don't believe there's anything criminal. There might be, but there for sure is some civil action that people can take to have their identities like that exposed. There still is a right to privacy in the United States, but that's for a lawyer, a law firm to determine. But somebody's got to punch that guy in the face. And I say that metaphorically, not literally. I know your listeners understand that, but these lefties out here, they get their undies in a bundle every time you say something that they don't like because they're trying to control the speech too. But they're not going to control my speech.
Well, I just want to make this correction. I know his twin brother did it, the other Castro, who's the congressman, but, obviously he was doing it with he didn't do it without his brother's consent, right? So I think we can agree on that. But, this doxing thing, obviously, if he's going to send that out, why is he doing that? Well, he wants to incite something, and his Saxman just texted in and he said he's got to get the 2% of his campaigns over. So maybe he was trying to do that. But these are his own constituents. I'm gonna play a clip for you here. I want to get your reaction to it, Sheriff Clarke. This is Beto O'Rourke, who used to represent El Paso. I think he was a councilman there. You and I were just there, right, a week ago. Let's get to cut 4 here. I want to get the sheriff's reaction to Beto O'Rourke saying that El Paso will happen again if Trump is reelected. And tell me that if this is not inciting hate for no reason. Cut 4, Beto O'Rourke, El Paso.
It will happen again because what happened in El Paso is not an isolated incident. After the president warned of caravans, you had somebody go into the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh, warning of caravans. You had the mosque in Victoria, Texas, burned to the ground on the day that Trump signed his executive order seeking to ban Muslim travel to the United States. So there are very real consequences to his words, to his tweets, to the racism that he fans. You saw this in May at a rally in Florida. He says, how are we going to stop these people, meaning these immigrants, from coming to this country? Someone yells out, shoot them. The crowd roars their approval.
He laughs.
He laughs. He says, that's okay with me. So he's not the source of racism in this country. This country's been racist as long as it's been a country, but he is certainly fanning the flames. He is certainly making violence like this more possible and more real until we change course.
Okay, so there's a presidential candidate accusing the president of, 1, being a racist, 2, says the country's been racist forever, 3, says he's inciting violence, and 4, links the last 5 mass shootings back to something the president directly said. Your reaction?
Yeah, this is what all of them are doing. It makes no sense. The American people, they're smart people. They really are, and they can see through this. The thing with O'Rourke, his campaign is struggling, as you indicated. He can't get any traction whatsoever. He might as well fold up shop. He's playing a clown show. I'm waiting for the SEALs to come out with beach balls on the tip of the nose, flipping them up in the air. That's how ridiculous this guy that he calls a campaign for president of the United States. There's a better way to get traction. I've run in elections. I've run 4 of them, actually 8 of them. You have to resonate with people. You can't just get out there talking stupid and, like you said, trying to incite. And he is blaming this on the president of the United States. No, unless you're the lunatic fringe of the Democrat Party, nobody thinks the president of the United States incited this or is egging it on or is encouraging it. So, but we're going to have to put up with this crap for the next, 18 months or so, closing in on 2020. You'll hear more, but every presidential candidate out there on the Democrat side chimed in and blamed the president was on cue. It's almost like it came from talking points.
Don't you feel that the Democrats that jumped to blame the president for El Paso, blame him directly? I mean, many of them saying that it was his rhetoric that caused this. What about the shooter in Dayton that was an Elizabeth Warren supporter and a complete leftist? Why aren't they saying the same thing there? Why aren't they blaming Warren for that guy in Dayton? Sheriff.
Yeah, it's kind of that move along, nothing to see here moment when it comes to Dayton, and that's how foolish they look, and everybody else sees it except them. The people who were responsible in both of these incidents are the people that were pulling the trigger, and I think most people in the United States kind of understand that there might be some underlying issues, but I'm one of the ones that pushes back against this thing about mental health, because the overwhelming majority of people in the United States who suffer from mental health would never do something like that. They would never take a firearm and spray it in a public place, killing their fellow human beings. So that might be a contributing factor to the 1 or 2% mentally ill that would do this. But if only 1 or 2% of the mentally ill would do something like this, then you can't use mental illness as a causation, as a cause. It may be a contributing factor, but I think it's a swing and a miss once again in terms of what we should do here. I don't have the answer for it, but I'll tell you a couple things though quickly here. One is you should never make sweeping policy decisions in a state of hysteria. Within 24 to 48 hours after that incident, people were, and it's usually the political talking heads, the elected officials on the left are jumping to, we need more gun controls. We need red flag laws. By the way, I'm pushing back, and I'm against any form of a red flag law. We can get into that on another day. But the other thing is that you got to let the people bury their dead, say a prayer for them if you want to, and let things calm down, and then you can do some assessments, have some discussions. But I'm a little disappointed in the members of the GOP in Congress that are jumping on board saying, yeah, we need to do something. Yeah, I'm interested in red flag laws. That is a violation of the United States Constitution, the due process section of the Fifth Amendment, where you can't deprive people of life, liberty, or property without due process law. So that's my biggest point, is that it's a violation of the Constitution. The other thing is it's nothing more than an assault on our Second Amendment rights. It's a stair-step way that the Democrats use to get to their main objective. You know, they attach a wonderfully sounding name, right? Who could be against red flag laws? Well, I am, for one. Think of when they said they called Obamacare the Affordable Care Act, when it's too expensive for anybody to even acquire or to buy. So be very careful when you hear a Democrat talk about a huge policy shift. This is nothing more than their attempt to move toward total gun confiscation. They know they have to do it step by step. So I want to encourage your listeners as well to call the State House, call your people in Congress and the U.S. Senate, and tell them no red flag laws. Let's have some discussions and conversations about some of the stuff going on with these mass shootings. But I'm not willing, John, I am not willing to cede my Second Amendment right back to the federal government for anything. I want to make that clear.
I know where you're coming from on this. I take the opposite view on red flag. If the Republicans don't do something that might help stop these shooting sprees that we're getting, and we simply sit back and say, well, we can't do this, and it's video games or it's parentless households or whatever it is that might be at the root cause of it, I think you're going to risk losing elections. And that's my concern here, and that's why I go with the president's instincts. That's why he's asked Mitch McConnell to draft something. McConnell punted it to Lindsey Graham, and they're working on it now. It's easy to sit there, Sheriff, and say, well, it's incrementalism and it's going to lead to this or lead to that. Here's the bottom line. Republicans have got to do something, and they do nothing. And if you in the absence of doing nothing, the other guys are going to take over, and they're going to do a lot. So I would rather look at extending background checks and red flag laws, as the president has suggested, and see where that goes. I get the other side of the argument. It's a raging debate right now. I understand it. But you and I are going to have to agree to disagree on that one. But here's something we do agree on. Cubs, Astros, World Series, Wrigley, you and I will be there. John Fredericks Radio Network.